guest. My name is Jesse, and I have been practicing the Wim Hof Method for 4 years. When I first started the Wim Hof Method, Wim Hof was in the United States was relatively unknown. It was a kind of a weird coincidence that I found the Wim Hof Method at all. I was scrolling on social media one night, or I don't even know. It was somewhere on the internet. I saw this article, and it said, "Learn to influence your immune system consciously," which I thought, okay, that's ridiculous. So of course I had to click on it, but I clicked on it, and right there was an interview with the Iceman himself, and there was a brief description of how to do the Wim Hof Method. So I started doing the breathing technique just based off of those instructions. I didn't really do it right, but I definitely was like, wow, okay, there's something to this. Just the idea that you could do breath work was something that I had just recently been started experimenting with. And so I got I did the free 3-day course, and I was like, okay, I got to find out more about this. I tried doing what a lot of people do nowadays, especially. I tried learning the Wim Hof Method just by trying to piece it together online. And let me tell you, you want to go, just learn it, just pay for the course, or go to an instructor's workshop. You want to know the actual thing. And so once I got at the time, all you could do, there were no instructors. It was just Wim Hof, and then he was in Poland. And here I was in the United States, in the Midwest, so I got the 10-week course. I started doing that, and I really had some positive reaction. Here's the thing though, I love the breathing technique, but the cold not so much. I did not take to the cold very quickly. So, but after, I got into that breathing technique, I was like, oh man, this is great, and so I went to, I was like, okay, next step, cold shower, let's do this. Went to the cold shower, I went to the shower, it was like, here we go, Wim Hof, just sprayed on me. And it's like in those cartoons, have you ever seen the cartoons where the skeleton separates from the body? That was what I just got out of there. I was like, oh my God, I'm not gonna be able to do this. And so when I first started, I only did the breathing technique. And yes, you feel great, it's awesome, and it is a wonderful thing. But it wasn't until a few months later that I started doing the complete Wim Hof Method. I had terrible allergies. And so I was out mowing one day, I came inside, felt terrible, and I was like, I was hot and sweaty, and I felt miserable. I was like, I'm gonna try this breathing thing out, and then I'm gonna go ahead and get into a cold shower. Now, I didn't go straight to the cold. I actually eased my way to cold. I started at a mildly uncomfortable cool, and then I worked my way down. I didn't even make it all the way to cold that day, but I was like, okay. Afterwards, I was like, okay, I feel something, this could be the beginning of something awesome. The next day, I got all the way to cold. I was like, yeah, but it was only a few seconds, and I continued to work my way up. And I will say this, that there is an important lesson to be learned here, and a lesson that I learned, because a lot of times people just want to say, oh, it's the cold, or it's the breathing, or it's the mindfulness, okay? Those 3 pillars of the Wim Hof Method. I will tell you from experience, it is all 3. They work synergistically. They do not work, they work separately too. But if you want the full, there is something about when you combine them that it makes it way more powerful. So if you're on the edge, I highly recommend just go, just do it. Yes, you could just do cold. Yes, you could just do mindfulness and meditation. Yes, you could just do breath work. But I'm telling you, when you combine these 3 things together and do them on a daily basis, not just like, oh, it's been a few days, I think I'll do a Wim Hof thing today. No, do it on a daily basis. I haven't missed a day in 4 years. When you do this, you will unlock this beautiful thing. And so Wim Hof Method has done that. And in my first year, I got really deep with the breath work. And I will say, let's just talk about the breath work over time, okay? So when you first start the Wim Hof Method breath work, it's different than later on. At first, you're like, oh my God, it's so deep. I've never done this before. And you go super, super deep. And it's awesome. Then what happens is you try to do the same trick over and over again, and what happens is you won't go as deep. And that is going to happen. It happens to all of us. And you have a choice at that point. Either you continue and you're still getting those benefits, but you're just not going as deep, or you try to tinker with it, play with it, and you do maybe you just really be more mindful. Yeah, that's where that mental focus comes into play. You're even more focused on the breath, on where you're going. And I will say this, that eventually you'll get through this kind of marathon in the middle type of experience, and you'll come out the other side. And I go so deep now. It's different than whenever I first started, but it is more inside. It's hard to explain it. It is deeper in my psyche. And it is such a calm, peaceful place that I can go to now after 4 years. When I first started, I would time myself to see how long my retentions would go, and I would always count every single time to 30 or 40 breaths. Now, over that time, I've gotten to the point where I don't count my breaths, I don't time myself, I just know. And that is a knowing that comes only through experience and only through time. If you're starting off, if you're in your first few years, just count. I would suggest not timing your retention times, unless you're just curious. But hey, if you want to, that's fine. That's up to you. When it comes to ice bathing, when it comes to cold showering and all these things, my first year, now you got to remember, when I first started this, I was like one of the very few people in the United States doing it. The Wim Hof Method Facebook page had maybe a dozen, I don't know, it was under 100 people worldwide in the Facebook group. And I mean, I can remember some people that were there at the very beginning, and you wouldn't see anybody post, hardly ever. Just hardly ever, nobody would post. Occasionally you'd find somebody would post something, but no one would post anything. Nowadays, I mean, it's ridiculous. It's just absolutely ridiculous. And I don't look at the Facebook page that much. But the community that has grown up around Wim Hof Method is fantastic. And I've gotten to meet lots of people who are fellow Hoffers, and it's been awesome. In my second year, I was fortunate enough to be in the first class ever in the United States to be able to learn directly from Wim Hof how to teach the method. And I got to meet some fantastic individuals, and I have been very, very fortunate to be an instructor for the past, since the end of 2016, beginning of 2017. The very beginning of 2017, I taught people in a workshop for the first time. It was February 2017. And one of my fellow instructors and I, we put on our first Wim Hof Method workshop, which was just the best experience ever for me, because I never thought I'd ever get to meet Wim Hof, let alone teach other people. And during that time, I started experimenting with my breath even more, and started experimenting with cold showers and ice bathing. In my first year, I only took cold showers. I really only took cold showers. I would go outside when it snowed or whenever it was really cold, but I was really slow to get to the point where I was actually taking an ice bath. When I first started taking ice baths, I started taking ice baths in my tub, which is a terrible idea. Hardly anybody has a tub that is in their house that is right for ice bathing. So come to a workshop or take a look at some of my pictures on Instagram at how I ice bathe now. I got a 100-gallon feeding trough. Those are actually pretty common here in the Midwest. I got a feeding trough that I put a lot of ice in now, and I take ice baths in that. And then I started to realize that it was really getting expensive to take ice baths so often, but I was hooked. And I will say this, that the effects of the Wim Hof Method have been profound. And so here are my biggest takeaways, my biggest things that have changed in this 4 years. First of all, And I think most importantly, my anxiety was reduced enormously. And I didn't even know how anxious of a person I was. I was walking around all this stuff. All this stuff was in my heart, in my head, and I didn't even know. And it was interfering with my life in ways that I wasn't even aware of because I'd been living that way for so long. And I wish I would have found it much, much younger, but at least I found it. I'm so very happy that I found it. So an incredible reduction in anxiety, an increase in my ability to deal with stressors as they come, because man, I train with ice and cold every day, man. What are you gonna throw at me, and so an ability to deal with stress, just incredible ability to deal with stress. In about 8 to 10 months into my practice, I noticed that I no longer had allergies. And I had been taking allergy medicine every day, all year round, and it was only getting worse. My allergies were getting worse and worse by the year. And suddenly they were getting better. And not too long after that, I was like, okay, let's experiment. Let's just not take those allergy medicines and see what happens. And I did that in the middle of the winter, whenever allergens were at their lowest. And I noticed, okay, so far so good. That would have been a disaster in previous years, but this year, okay, cool. I'm noticing I don't have allergies. Then, as the spring came, I was expecting the worst, but nothing happened. I was free of allergies. And it has been beautiful ever since. I've been free of allergies ever since. I also have experienced fewer colds and flus. I will not say that I have not caught a cold or a flu since I started Wim Hof Method, but the first year of Wim Hof Method, I didn't catch a cold. And so I erroneously believed that somehow I had found the cure to the common cold. And I remember I was talking to, I think it was my parents, and they were asking me, oh man, you're going out in the cold and stuff, and aren't you gonna get sick? And I was like, I don't get sick. That's not something I do. I don't get sick anymore. That's what other people do. I practice Wim Hof Method. And it wasn't but just like a few days after that, I came down with a really bad cold. Now, when I came down with that cold, I had been practicing over just a little over a year, and I was crushed, emotionally crushed. I was like, it's all a lie. It's all a lie. This is all just placebo effect. There's nothing really to this. I thought I wasn't going to catch any more colds anymore. And then I was talking to a friend of mine, and he was like, dude, you don't have allergies anymore. You're practically stress-free. You've come alive. You've bloomed as a person. So what if you caught a cold? You're still a human being. It's not like you're somehow like a deity after practicing Wim Hof. And I was like, okay, that's true. So yes, I occasionally catch a cold or flu, but typically not as often as I used to before I started practicing Wim Hof Method. And if I do have a cold or a flu, I'm over it a lot faster than I used to as well. So that's another positive benefit. There's a few things that I will say that did not happen to me. Some people claim that it affects their blood pressure. It does. For many of my clients, they've noticed that the blood pressure normalizes and it's perfect. I had no real effect there. I didn't have an effect on my testosterone either. And I did have my testosterone checked before practicing Wim Hof, and I just had it checked recently, and it really did not change. So it didn't boost my testosterone, it didn't drop my testosterone, it didn't affect my testosterone. Some people claim that it does, it just didn't for me. It did not blunt my muscle gains. It has helped a lot with I will say, as far as cardio goes, I can go and go and go. And yes, I do some cardio training, but most of all I do is weight training and jujitsu. And in jujitsu, I started that like a little over a year ago. And as soon as I got into it, I was hanging without getting, completely gassed. I was hanging with everybody else who had been doing it for years without, it wasn't like I was doing sprints or any kind of real cardio. So my cardiovascular health really significantly improved. My respiratory system, I feel like it's really, really at a high level. And so it's really been a benefit to me. I highly recommend Wim Hof Method. Now, 4 years deep, is there anything left for me to learn? Yes. This is something that I want to make really clear. When you practice Wim Hof Method, it is a journey that will change, and you will change. And you'll constantly notice new things if you're practicing it right. Because part of it is that mental focus part. Part of it is, let's really focus, let's really notice, let's really get in, let's go deep. And I'll say that every morning I look forward to do my breath work, still 4 years deep. And I still, when I wake up, I can't wait to go do my breath work. And does the cold ever stop feeling cold? No, the cold will always feel cold, but you change. You change. The cold is cold, but my strength, my resilience to the cold has increased and improved, and it's no thing. I go most of the year without a coat. I only put a coat in the car whenever road conditions are dangerous, because just in case I'll be in like some kind of a polar vortex, I want to make sure if I need to, I can put a coat on. But I don't wear coats. I most of the time wear short sleeve shirts in the wintertime. I really only wear long sleeve shirts and sweaters for fashion, not for their thermal value. So really for me, the cold does not bother me anymore. I also notice that I'm able to adapt to things a lot faster, and that things like jet lag and sleep deprivation, as long as I apply the same attitude that I apply to the cold, to that, I can get through just about any struggle. Will it cure sadness? No. I have suffered tremendous loss, I've had personal losses during the time I've practiced Wim Hof Method. It doesn't make you not sad, but it gives you a way to escape and to process. I shouldn't really say escape, because you're not really escaping, but you're allowing yourself to process those emotions. So you're not keeping them stuck. You're not gonna have that PTSD or that regressed anxiety later on. So while it's not like it's a guarantee you're gonna smile forever, you're more likely to bounce back, at least in my experience, more likely to bounce back from a terrible experience and be able to be there for your loved ones and be strong whenever you're needed. I also sleep a lot better now than I did before. Sleep has always been something that I've had a lot of struggles with, but now I sleep a lot more soundly, and I think it has a lot to do with the fact that my anxiety levels are far lower than ever before. So I'm going to continue doing Wim Hof Method. I highly recommend Wim Hof Method. It has been a fantastic thing. It's not the only thing that I do. I just want to say that, it's not like I learned Wim Hof Method and I stopped looking for other things, but it is the foundation of my day. It's how I start my day, and it's how I end my day. So I hope that helps, and I would highly recommend Wim Hof Method. Go to wimhofmethod.com, or hey, come to one of my workshops. I would love to teach you the method myself. Please like and subscribe, and don't forget to go out there and be nice to people. Oh yeah. Okay. Pretty sweet snow angel.